What we're going to be looking at today are the motives for exploration. Remember, one of our objectives is to know what it was that motivated people to either support globalization and work towards that goal or oppose it, work against it. In this case, we're focused on motives for why particular people in particular countries undertook the age of exploration. First, we need to know whose motives are we even talking about. We said before the age of exploration was done by Christian Europeans. Okay, so whose motives are we talking about? It doesn't start with all European Christians are trying to do the age of exploration. Our starting point is down here on the Iberian Peninsula, which we've seen a lot. That's like that southwest tip of Europe. And the two countries on the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal, were the earliest movers, the earliest people to begin this long-distance oceanic exploration. And of those two, little Portugal was the very first. And that's largely due to the efforts of one man, this guy, Prince Henry the Navigator. And Prince Henry kicked off the age of exploration not by actually being an explorer himself. What he did do was establish a navigation school that taught people how to travel, how to use some of that navigational technology that we studied on Friday. So remember, his contribution is a school, not by being an explorer himself. Sometimes that is the role that wealthy and powerful individuals play. They're not necessarily the ones who do a thing or make a great achievement, but they provide the resources for other people to do so. So let's look at the motivations. And here, the motivations are the 3 G's. And the first of those is God, which is a stand-in for religion, but 3 G's makes things easier to remember. So when you think of the God motivation, you're thinking about this desire for Europeans to spread Christianity. And this certainly was important to the early leaders of exploration. And remember, those are Spain and Portugal. And part of their drive to spread Christianity has to do with their recent experience. Both countries had been fighting to reclaim their territory from Muslims. Remember, we were looking at the map of the Phoenicians' trading routes and all of their settlements, everything. And as a lot of you were trying to kind of line things up on that map and a modern map that shows countries like this one, one of the easiest places to identify is where Europe and Africa come together, Northern Africa, Southwest Europe. Right, these two little points that are barely separate. For a long time, Muslims had invaded across this area, right, and had many times made it as far north as France. and they controlled a lot of the Iberian Peninsula for a pretty long time. In order to become independent monarchies, both Spain and Portugal had to reconquer their territory from Muslims. And they called this the Reconquista. Reconquista is, of course, a Spanish word, and it meant reconquering. And the particular group of Muslims they are taking it back from were known as the Moors. The Moors had long had a presence in the Iberian Peninsula. The Spanish language still shows elements of the Arabic language that they spoke. But they were able to push them out, retake control. The idea now was that they would spread Christianity beyond Europe, and they would take it to previously unknown parts of the world. Well, at least unknown to them. And they certainly did do this. And people who defend the legacy of Christopher Columbus, and that is one thing I have heard them often point out, is that he spread Christianity. I mean, that's only a good thing from that perspective, right? But for some Catholic defenders of Christopher Columbus, the fact that he spread the Catholic Church to the New World is an important good that he did. It all depends on your perspective on that. Now, for the Pear Deck, just to check quickly your opinion, how do you think, or how genuine do you think the God motive was for these Portuguese and Spanish people? Okay, and of course, when you see that reference to a front, it's the same as what you would say when somebody is fronting something. It's not genuine. It's just a show. All right. So no one thought it was totally genuine. Okay. But steady progress goes from mostly genuine to an even mix, which is where most of you are. And then two, see it as either mostly fake, just kind of one of those public motives that's not really the most important thing, right, or completely a front. The second motive is gold. Now, just as God was a G word to stand in for religion, gold is a G word to stand in for wealth, money. So, don't necessarily, again, when you see gold, don't think we're talking always about actual gold. Gold is just represents a desire for wealth. And this starts out, a lot of this really is not about gold. And the story of this starts way back with the Crusades. One of the things that the Crusades had done was it introduced Europeans to luxuries from Asia. some of which they'd actually had before as a result of the Silk Road. But remember, the Silk Road comes to an end essentially in the same century as the fall of the Roman Empire. So the next time the Europeans are going to get good access to Asian luxuries is the Crusades. And mostly what we're talking about here are spices, things like cinnamon, cloves. The problem for the Europeans is that the Muslims controlled the flow of these spices. That's why we called it the Muslim spice trade. The Crusades are kind of right in the middle of that era of the Muslim spice trade. And the Italians are back. When we talked about the Crusades, we talked about those Italian merchants who made money transporting crusaders and supplying the crusaders on their way to the Holy Land. And then they would return from the Holy Land with ships loaded up with goods from Muslim traders. Those would be things like spices. And the Italians never lost that. The Italians remained the middlemen for that spice trade between Muslims and Europe. Other Europeans wanted to get direct access to the spices. The usual phrase fits, right? Cut out the middleman. The Italians are making a huge profit off of this. It's costing other Europeans a lot of money. They want to get direct access and cut out the Italians. And really, as much as they can, cut out the Muslims. Later on, we will see actual gold as well as silver and precious stones being involved in the age of exploration, the things these countries like Spain and Portugal are able to pull out of the New World. The Spanish were especially good at finding gold in the Americas. So sometimes it is actual gold. Remember, most of the time, though, when we say gold, we mean a desire for wealth. And the third G is glory. And glory does mean glory, but you can also think about it, if it helps, as bragging rights. And how much territory have you conquered? How big is your empire? Those things become very important. Now, of the three motives, which of these do you think was probably most important? I know you don't know anything else, or may not know anything else other than what you've just seen today in this presentation. One thing you could do is put yourselves in the shoes of these people. Which of the three G's do you think was most important to them? Okay, you guys were actually fairly evenly split between God and gold as motives, with glory coming in at a pretty distant third. Of course, there are no right or wrong answers. These are just opinions. To this day, historians, all kinds of people are still fighting it out to try to convince other people which of these was the most important. We are going to stop there with our notes. Now, you do have an exit slip at 9:04. What I want you to do with these few minutes that you've got, it's a few, but it's enough to get some work done. I want you to continue working on the Geography Wednesday assignment from last week. I know some of you found that more challenging, and that makes sense. It is more challenging than some of the others that we've done. Oops, I've gone too far. So that would be the 3 April Geography Day. Remember, I gave you a couple of extra days because of the mistakes the first day, but I will be collecting it on Friday. If you are finished with that, please continue working on Columbian Exchange Part 1. And I'll let you know when the exit slip's coming.